All right, so here's the thing, right? It's Saturday, and yeah, it's just the weather's starting to look up here in the UK, and here's a few things I've been thinking, right? So I don't know, I just celebrated my birthday the other day, and one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is just things like work, where I want to be with work, the future, sort of like retirement plans, where me and the family want to live, and obviously I want to make sure that whatever my kids, wherever they go to university, when they get to 18 or whatever, right? I want them to have the options, right? So whether we've got some assets, and then obviously they'll be going to school, and then when they finish school and go to university and stuff, I want it to be like, I want them to have the opportunity to say, well, hang on a second. um um I'm just fixing my camera there. I want them to be able to have the options, right, deciding whether they want to go to university, if they want to go to university, or if it's a case where you know they don't want to go to university, they want to just do their own thing. And I think a big component of this, I think, as parents or for anyone, is you've got to have options, right? So one of the things I've been thinking about myself is, or for myself is, what do I want my investments to look like? What do I want my properties to look like? You've got to have options, you've got to have assets, and one of those assets obviously is like real estate. So it's like, if you've got a house or whatever, then it gives you options. But then also, if you've got investments, like I've been looking a lot at like things like another stock exchange, and sometimes it feels like it's a bit of a hard thing to get your head around. But really, all you got to do is start investing, whether it's £20 a week or £20 a month, £30, right? So I read somewhere like the S&P 500 has returned maybe an average of 8%. Don't quote me on that. I may be off my figures and stuff, but things like this, the S&P 500 or the Vanguard. I focus a lot on things like the Vanguard, or Vanguard S&P 500, and Vanguard. The other one's called Vanguard. I think it's called Vanguard uh, Life, and these are all accumulator type stocks, right? So it's just like whatever profit you make, that goes back straight into the stock. And obviously, when you invest in something like S&P 500 and Vanguard Life accumulator, I mean, any of those types of um, stocks. I won't go too much into the difference of it because we end up in a rabbit hole. This was just like a quick video for Saturday morning, but all those two particular stocks have returned since its inception. The S&P 500, since its inception, has always returned. And as I say again, don't quote me on this. And by the way, whatever things I talk about, this shouldn't be taken as, that's my little disclaimer. This shouldn't be taken as financial advice. I'm not an invest. I'm not a professional investor, and anything like that. You guys should do your own research, right? But things like the S&P 500 has always returned since its inception. So if you want to think about putting your money in a savings account, that's cool. But things like the S&P 500, the rate of return of that versus a savings account in a normal bank is much more. So for me, yeah, I mean, just having celebrated my birthday, you know, one of the other things I'm thinking about a lot is, yeah, it's the future, where I want to be, where I want to be, with my family, what options we want to have when we retire. And these are things that I should think about, right? So these are things I've just been thinking about today. So yeah, so I guess the moral of this video is just kind of like it's a little bit of a Saturday blog. It's nice weather out there, and it was just to kind of yeah, just talk about that really, and just say those are some of the things that I've been thinking about. Thinking really strongly about increasing my contributions on my private pension, just so that by the time I retire, I've got a nice little nest egg, as well as having property. Probably got plans to invest in another property, whether that's here in the UK or in another country. And I'm in my 40s, I'm in my early 40s, and these are things I feel like a lot of people in their 40s should be thinking about. When you look at the fact that not a lot of people have savings, and it's hard out there just because of the cost of living and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes you've just got to cut back, um, to put that little extra in your nest egg. And if you're putting in your savings, I think that's also cool. I do that. But my plan has always been building a emergency fund. So, and that's different for different people. Some people say, oh, you should have at least 6 months worth. But in an economy like this, wherever you are, whether it's Africa or Europe or generally the Western world, that's really difficult. But this is something to think about. So even if you just, you've got to have that emergency money, and then from there, well, at least that's my plan anyway. So emergency money, and then, whatever I've got left is try and eradicate as much debt as possible, whether that's personal debt, car debts, student loan debt. Some people, it just might be mortgages. Some people might decide to pay extra. All of that, all of that makes a difference, right? Because if you look at, loans work the same just as investments. It's all compound interest, right? So if you're paying off your mortgage early, you're wiping off months and years in some instances of your mortgage, and that gives you more time at the end, and that allows you to build whatever wealth, a capital you have, in your in your house. And then the same with investing. All of that is compound interest, right? So what you get back, when I talked about the S&P 500, that's all money coming back. So yeah, just a little Saturday blog. We're gonna go out. I'm gonna go out and do some things with the kids. Gonna enjoy ourselves. But this is what I've been thinking about. It's what I've been focusing on: building wealth. Cutting back on some of the things you don't need, so you can put a little bit extra, whether it's 20, 30 pounds in your savings or your investment portfolio, all those kinds of things. So yeah, just a little Saturday musings. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for keeping up, and I'll catch you on the next one.